everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. Thank you. You're too kind. And this, of course, is the show where everyone's a fan of something, and we've got something for every fan, especially you awesome and, most importantly, patient robot enthusiasts, you combat robotics rebels, you lovers of the... I was trying to think of some cool rhymes there, and I couldn't do it. I'm not Farouk. Farouk is a man with talent unmatched, and I can only try, really. But Farouk is the man in the box, the master of ceremonies, who gives us the intros to some of the best fights that we have seen in BattleBot's history, really. I mean, 2019, this season is going to go down, I think, is probably one of the best. It'll probably go down also as the season that it really became a staple of discovery and just reestablished itself in pop culture. I mean, that's my hope, right? The eternal optimist that I am. I really want to see this do well. And I think that it is doing well. We are now going to be 14 episodes in. We've got the new episode premiering Friday night. That's one sleep away, depending on when you listen to this episode. And it is a win and you're in fight card. But first, been a couple of weeks. I was absent. There's a lot of stuff going on. Life happens. My apologies that we missed last week, but here we are back this week. So, of course, we have some recapping to do. First and foremost, episode 12. So 2 episodes ago, you may have seen it. Probably did. If you're listening to this, you're probably a BattleBots fan, and you're just like, man, hurry up. Like, tell us what you thought about the episode. I got it. So episode 12, we saw Minotaur over Shatter. Good fight. Glad to see Minotaur on a roll. They're now 3-3. Shatter, I think, is going to have to be one of those better luck next season cases, but you never know. They could make it in. I really think that they are what everyone wanted Chomp to be, right? People gave Chomp a lot of flack and a lot of snickers and kind of mocked, that it was a dying design, kind of. Like, it's pointless. But Shatter proved that the design can still be effective with some tweaks and modifications. So props to them. But yes, Minotaur back in the win column, 3-3 now. I think they'll be in the top 16 just by being Minotaur. And yeah, they've been on the wrong side of luck this season for the first part, but now they have seemed to right those wrongs and are heading full speed ahead into, hopefully, the Tournament of 16. Son of Waiachi got another win. It made short work of Kraken. And, you got to love Kraken for trying. I do love Matt Spurk and his family. This is what their family does. Some families go on vacation during the summer to Disney World or Universal Studios. Some families, have get-togethers every Sunday. Some families do game night every Wednesday night. They do BattleBots, and I think it's so awesome of them. The new design really did look good. It really did have a lot of promise, but he's going to have to do some adjusting in the off-season. But congratulations to Son of Waiachi and Team Waiachi, who they're not the only ones that are celebrating a victory this week. We'll talk more about that later. Railgun Max, where did they come from, right? Out of nowhere, gets the win over Wan Hu. This was a great fight. Came down to the wire, judge's decision. And then, can we take another moment? Because I think we took a moment earlier, several episodes ago, to appreciate just how awesome Witch Doctor has been doing. They get a big win over Gigabyte. And this is the Witch Doctor I have been waiting to see for several seasons now. And I am so happy, so proud of Andrea Galately and her husband and just that whole team and how well they've done. Who would have thought? But I'm not going to say I knew this was coming. I said that this is a long time coming. I will say that for sure. Bloodsport, another young team. They get a win over Breaker Box. Jim Smentowski, a veteran. Not sure if this bot is going to be his bot. I mean, he made Nightmare, right? He's already established himself in the pages of BattleBot's history. But BreakerBox, I don't know. I'm undecided about it. So you guys can give me your thoughts as well on that. Whiplash over Texas Twister. I think Texas Twister is a great bot. Fuzzy Malden, obviously a great driver. But man, Whiplash and the Vasquez family, holy crap, are they doing really, really well. So they're charging full speed ahead into the tournament of 16. If they're not in there, something's seriously wrong. But Whiplash has been amazing. And then huge win for Huge over Bronco. Very unfortunate for the guys over on Bronco who, what else can you say except for they have also been on the wrong side of luck all season long. But Huge got a big win, as Mr. Schultz said on the episode. This was one of their dream matchups. It was a great fight. Like, how fun is Huge to watch out there in that battle box? I mean, it really is something special. And I love that bot. I love that design. I want it to do well. They are 3-1 now. I definitely think they've got a spot secured in the 16. And how great will that be to see Huge in there? Then we get to episode 13, another stacked card, another great set of matchups. So we had Hypershock over BreakerBox. Like I said, I don't think that this is going to be the bot that Jim wants to be remembered for. But hey, we took a moment to appreciate how great Andrea Galately and Witch Doctor have done. How about we take a moment to appreciate how great Will Bales and the team Hypershock have done? I'm not going to say this is their year, because it all depends on how they do in the tournament. But I will say, as far as the regular season goes, this really has been Hypershock's year. They've done great, and I think even if they're eliminated in the first round of the tournament, or if they make it all the way to the championship, and if they were to lose, this is still a win for them. They have done fantastic. They have won over the hearts of so many fans. I don't think they lost a lot of fans, but I think clearly this is a season that they needed, and they've done it in fantastic fashion. And then they've got a big fight coming up tomorrow night. Yeti over Tantrum, Mr. Gibson doing Mr. Gibson things over Tantrum, who I think Tantrum's a good bot, but Yeti seems to be on a mission, so good for him. Copperhead over a local favorite here in Washington, Warhawk. Really wish Rob had a better season this year, but obviously, as they say, there's always next season. I'm not saying he's out of the tournament of 16, but it's going to be very hard because Warhawk just has not done very well. They did great last season, but like so many, you can't base how they'll do this season on how they did last season. I mean, if that was the case, Hypershock wouldn't even be main eventing or even in the discussion, and here they are. Copperhead, too. I think Copperhead has done really well for themselves, and Zach is a great team captain. He did Poison Arrow, and that was a great bot. Bite Force over Monsoon. Bite Force, God, Paul Ventimiglia is a bad man. And Bite Force seems unstoppable. I can't even remember the last time they lost. In fact, I think you have to Google it. But Bite Force, they're definitely securing their spot in the 16, probably securing their spot in the top 4 or even 3. They may be number 1. They may be the number 1 seed, but we will have to wait and see how that all pans out. Free shipping in a controversial win over Railgun Max came down to a split decision. A lot of people disagree with this. Look, I watched this fight, and I got to say that I get why free shipping, but I don't agree with why free shipping. So I don't envy the judges. We know that. I've talked to them before, and they don't envy themselves. They're like, if we don't have to participate, it's like the better BattleBots is, because people want knockouts. They want convincing wins. I'm not saying that the ones that come to a split decision or come down to a decision at all aren't great fights, but the judges, they don't want to have to make the decision. They want it to be decided in the box. Then we had, but good for Gary Jin and free shipping. We had Uppercut win over Scorpios. These were two bots that I honestly didn't know if I had to pick a winner who I was going to pick in this one, because Scorpios seemed to be just rolling, right? They were firing on all cylinders. He's calling out Don Hudson of Lockjaw, and it just seemed like they were on the up and up, and it's like, who's going to stop these guys? But Uppercut, man, they have really been making some noise, and Alex, a great young captain, a great young team. I think this is a bot that we are going to talk about for several seasons to come. So good for Uppercut getting that win. I think they're going to be in the 16. I mean, how could you not, especially with a win over a quality opponent like Scorpios? And I think Scorpios will probably be in there too, but we will, again, like I've said all opening segment long, have to wait and see. And then Bronco versus Hydra, saving the best for last. Poor Bronco, but man, if you're not talking about Hydra, if Hydra is not on your radar for the top 16, for the top 4, then I don't know what you're watching, because they have been, Jake Ewert, crazy good. And some of you may have seen posted on the Facebook page, facebook.com/fanshowofficial, and on the YouTube channel, or shared on Twitter as well, at fanshow_robotic, my one-on-one post-match with Jake of Hydra. It was a great conversation. We talk about basically how he feels Hydra did in the conclusion of their regular season, and what he wants ultimately from Hydra, and how he even said he feels Son of Waiachi. That's right, Sal might be the bot that gets put on the back burner moving forward, and they might just invest everything into Hail Hydra. So it was a great couple of episodes. Glad we could get all caught up on that. And my guest this evening, it's not just one but two, and they have a big match coming up tomorrow on this brand new episode of BattleBots. And let's run you through the Win and Your In card, episode number 14. We have Sao, Son of Waiachi versus Copperhead, Rotator versus Blacksmith, Huge versus Hypershock, Lockjaw versus Scorpio, so he gets his wish. He will face Don Hudson. Yeti versus Duck, that's going to be a good one. Valkyrie versus Quantum, and then a triple threat, Railgun Max, Uppercut, and my guest tonight, the gentleman from Bloodsport, and then the main event, Cobalt versus Minotaur. So as BattleBot says with their caption, with so many teams on the bubble this season, all with solid records and a strong strength of schedule, for the first time in BattleBot's history, the final 8 spots of the top 16 will be decided by a series of play-in matches. Those matches happen tomorrow night. This is a brilliant idea by those powers that be. It really is. So we have Minotaur versus Cobalt, win and you're in. Then we have Valkyrie versus Quantum, win and you're in. Yeti versus Duck, win and you're in. Lockjaw versus Scorpios. Hypershock versus Huge. These are bots being paired up against each other that I feel could have been in anyway. But now if you win, you are guaranteed to be in, and then the rest will be left to fate. So there are 16 seeds. There are 15 available, as we all know that Black Dragon won the Desperado tournament. Minotaur picked up 2 more wins from that in their 3-3 record. So they have fought more matches than a lot of the bots on that card. But Bloodsport, Railgun Max, and Uppercut, that is a really good-looking triple threat rumble. Was very excited to see it, so I got a chance to talk to Mr. Tabor and Mr. Marple, Griffin and Justin. And without further ado, any more delay, let's go ahead and hear from those gentlemen about their thoughts on Bloodsport, what goes on behind the scenes in the pits, and, of course, life in BattleBots. Enjoy. All right, bot fans, joining me now is a twofer, not one, but 2 guests. We have the boys from Bloodsport. It is Griffin Tabor and Justin Marple. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a pleasure to have multiple guests on at the same time, because obviously when it comes to BattleBots, teams are more than just one person, unless you're Hal Rucker, which seems to be like the only one out there that's just him, even though sometimes his daughter is there with him. But let me ask you then, BattleBots really opened up a lot of like a whole new world to me when I went to the tapings last year, because I had no idea that some of the stuff goes on in what you would call the off season that does. I mean, obviously Jameson Go went and created Team Sawblaze, and now we have this year some of the guys from Monsoon went and created Ragnarok. So when it comes to the off season, like, is this one of you guys maybe gets a phone call that says, hey, we have this vacancy on my team, you came to mind, what do you think about joining? Or is it that there's some creative differences and you guys want to go and try something different? Like, obviously, probably more so for Griffin than anything, but like, how does it work during an off season for BattleBots in that aspect?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, Justin, you go.
This is going to be a thing the whole time.
Yeah, so I think every team, there's probably one of each. I probably all the different stories have happened, but there aren't really, the one that doesn't really happen much, I think, is the like falling outs. They're usually pretty minor, if there is anything. One guy's like, I want to go crazy, and one guy's like, I want to go competitive. I'd imagine it's probably the most common one. And someone's like, if you want to go crazy, then do it on your own time, and teams kind of break up. Most of the time, we're all good friends. We like live in a hotel for 2 weeks next to each other. We live in the pits next to each other for 2 weeks. I mean, it's your day to day spending time with everyone. So grudges, they just like can't happen because it would just be too toxic if it did.
Yeah, I imagine it gets pretty tense in there. You guys are in close quarters for 2 weeks straight, which anybody that's been to like a summer camp, that you go there with your best friends, but then you hope to leave with your friendship intact because you guys have been constantly right next to each other for that whole time frame. And Justin, what about for you? What is an off season like in your mind?
Yeah, so I mean, we are in a bit of a unique situation in that we are an incredibly new team. We started off as a Vector Robotics team, but we only started doing combat a year ago. Like literally at filming, I'm the Bloodsport team that as today only started like 8 months before. We started as a 3-pound robot and has kind of built a few things, and we kind of applied, not totally thinking we'd get experience, saying like, oh, we'll apply this year, then we'll have something to build upon following years. But to our surprise, we actually got accepted as a alternate. And sure enough, the robot has been performing really quite well for what we expected. So the off season. So this is actually our first off season as like a collective team. I know Tabor has been on Endgame, so this is like his second one. But yeah.
Yeah. So Tabor, tell me about that, because Endgame was a bot to beat last year, and this year it seems like they're kind of more on the wrong side of luck, which I don't know if that's poetic justice in your mind, or you feel for your guys. But you mentioned that it's we want to go big or go crazy, or it's some matter of creative differences. For you and joining Bloodsport, I mean, what was the ultimate decision maker there?
Really, it's this that Endgame is really entirely drawn out of New Zealand. I was really just like what legitimately happened is Jack from Endgame was like, I'm going to be on BattleBots, and it's really expensive to fly a bunch of all of our teammates out from New Zealand. And he's like, Griffin, I've known you for years. Will you show up and just spend 2 weeks working on the Showbot with me at the competition? And it was really just that. It was like a couple weeks beforehand helping prep, 2 weeks of the event, and then like kind of a little bit of planning for the next season. But it wasn't it was like as a secondary kind of member, just because that's the best you could really do from a different continent.
Oh, wow.
And with Bloodsport, like the day Bloodsport was accepted, Justin was like the one who actually like made the applied with saying like, I'll get friends to help me with this, but it was really like Justin's baby. And then the day after he got accepted, the three of us, Jack from Endgame, myself, and Justin were all talking, and it just we all just decided that it made more sense for me to switch to a team I could actually be like a partner on than a team I was a second fiddle.
Hey,
exactly right.
That's very fair, and it's interesting that you say that, because one of the most fascinating things about BattleBots, at least in my mind from a fan perspective, is the different size of teams. I mean, you have Bite Force, and it's like they are a team. Everyone has their own role, and I remember wandering through the pits, and Lockjaw was a lot like that too. But then you have Tombstone, who does just fine, and it's like 2, maybe 3 of them at a time that are in that pit. In your mind, Justin, what are all the possible positions, I guess you would say, that a team could potentially have for a season of BattleBots?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's been something we've been trying to figure out. Like, where does everyone fit best within the team? I've generally taken over like kind of the leadership role of the team, subdividing tasks as necessary. So when we were designing this, so I guess this isn't at the competition, but beforehand, we really subdivided into like, I know my friend Nick, I had him do most of the weapon system, versus I did like a lot of the drive system. Tabor did a lot of like the logistical, like actually ordering stuff and all that sort of stuff. And so it kind of worked out in that way. But when you're actually there, you kind of have to work to everyone's strengths and kind of identify weaknesses. Like Tabor's very good at making friends and talking to people. So he definitely took over roles involving interaction with other people. Versus, my dad was there and he has a lot of electrical knowledge. He did a lot. He helped me a lot of the soldering. Nick has a mechanical background, so he helped a lot with the, repairing and grinding away and all that sort of stuff. You just have to work with what people know and try to have a team that's very diverse in their knowledges.
So basically, the more involved your robot is, I guess would be the right term, the more people you could potentially have on your team, because obviously I mentioned Hal Rucker and how it always seems like it's just him standing in that battle box by himself with Duck. And Duck, obviously a very simple concept and design, and even Tombstone is a very simple concept and design with its blade there, but you have Saw Blaze that has that moving saw and a lot of moving parts on it, and then of course Hypershock and Lockjaw, again a lot of moving parts, and then a weapon. So is it kind of like, think of it in the world of cars where you have a shop and it's just like, okay, so you're going to work on tires, you're going to handle the engine, you're going to handle the drivetrain, you're going to handle electrical, and then you're going to handle interior. Like, is that about sum it up?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's definitely one way to do it. You could have one person try to do everything, but personally, that's just a mess, honestly. I guess Hal has figured it out, but it's a lot less stressful, a lot easier when you just have someone be like, hey, can you just fix this, part of the robot while I go and work on this other thing, and we come together an hour later and it's all like put back together. It's a lot less stressful that way.
Yeah, and there to Hal's defense, I'm sure that there's plenty of people out there that feel like the only person that they can trust to get the job done right is themselves, and there's definitely nothing wrong with that. My belief has always been many hands make light work, but at the same time, I've been a one-man show here at the F.A.N show for years because I'm the only person I can trust to get the stuff done that I need done when I need it done. So it's a give and take. There is pros and cons to both. Griffin, for you, being part of different teams, I mean, even how minor your role may have been with Endgame, humor me here. In your mind, what's the best team setup as far as, is it having assigned roles, broken up into as small a part as it can be, or to have multiple people tackle, multiple different things, kind of like a Venn diagram, where they specialize in this, but they're also going to help with this and this person and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really important is you have to understand that at the event, there's just so little time to do the 100 tasks that need to be done to prep the robot, to repair the robot, that everyone needs to, we'll be having 5 people all taking apart different parts of the robot at once, and you need to parallelize as much as possible. So everyone needs to have a little bit of jack of all trades, right? Everyone needs to be able to strip the electronics apart, and maybe you only trust 2 people to do the soldering, but you can have 5 people all set up, take everything apart, line up all the different soldering you want to do. So there's a lot of this. Everyone needs to have at least some competence in a lot of aspects. And I think one thing that's always important in teams like this where it's our spare time, it's really easy for you to say, I'm busy this week, I can't allocate the time to the robot. But it's the buck has to stop at some point, right? Someone has to be the one who's responsible in the end. And Justin and I have taken on different roles of that aspect where one of like we know like it doesn't matter if someone else missed it, the buck stops at us, right? We're the ones who said, I'm taking over this task of ordering these parts, and even if it wasn't like you that made a mistake, the buck stops there. And so there's some mix of everyone needs to kind of be able to do everything, and you have to kind of allow everyone to have their own spare time when they have spare time, because this is all a hobby. But you still need someone, I think, who takes responsibility for each task. And sometimes it's the same guy over and over again. Like I came in knowing what BattleBots was like, and Justin was like fully committed from day one because he's applied and he's like, I'm spending my life savings on this, like, right, like and we had a lot of teammates who were like, holy, like what are we signing up for? And there was definitely some time where people were just kind of getting used to how crazy of an endeavor we were embarking on.
You know, one of my favorite things about BattleBots and being at the tapings is the pit. I refer to it as a beehive of just all these amazing things happening that, you know, the tinkering and all of that. It's where the magic happens, you know, and then, of course, we get to see the final result out in the battle box for the fight. But, I mean, that pit is something special. So, Justin, for you, as a captain of a team, like, you know, I don't know how many other teams you've been involved with or how much you got to overhear or really see in the pit, but what's one thing that you will absolutely not tolerate? And maybe you saw it in another pit on another team and you're just like, nope, not happening here in this pit.
Interesting question. I don't know if I saw anything that was necessarily so bad that I was like, this can never happen or anything. We did set some like ground rules beforehand. Like we try to, you know, some of us, including myself, like to swear like under our breath a bit too many times. So we're like, try not to, especially if there's a camera around, try not to swear. You don't want to like ruin anyone's take. Things like that. Like the BattleBots also is pretty strict on what you can and can't do like within the pits. For instance, if you want to be grinding, you have to go to the grinding area. So you don't really see any like bad behavior in that way, like misusing tools or anything. Similar with like lipos, the lipos have to be charged out in the battery tent. And
I'd say the one maybe is like sometimes you see just like tensions are really high. So occasionally you see one team like badmouth another team, and it's like we all know we put so much time and energy and money into these projects, and that's like the one that. Sometimes you even catch it. You see someone like lose badly, and you're like, "Oh, the team's not very good." And then you have to catch yourself and step back and go, "I'm judging them too harshly." And I think that's one that really antagonizing other teams is probably the one I would say is you occasionally see it as like a quick flash of someone like being inappropriate, and we try to do our best to avoid that. But it's.
There's a lot of different personalities in that pit, and my follow-up was going to be, you know, I've heard so many great things about what goes on in the pit, you know, that you guys really, TV tries to make you out to be, you know, rivals with another team or the good guys and the bad guys or what have you, but in the end, you guys are all, you know, for the most part, friends. There's some bad blood, pun intended, out there, but it's nothing, like, serious that you guys, you know, can't be put next to each other in the pit. But what's like the one thing that you guys hate about the pit life? Like what's the one thing that like really people don't get to see and they don't quite understand, you know, like it's tough because there's no internet access.
That's so bad, you know.
It's true. It's absolutely true. It's in a Boeing hangar, which I think has what I've heard. I don't know if this is true. What I've heard, it has like radio, like it blocks radio as an RF shielding something within the walls. So when you go in the building, you have absolutely no 4G. You have in the Wi-Fi, like there's a Wi-Fi thing set up, but it doesn't work. It never worked.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you want to do any
serious first world problems there, Justin.
Yeah.
Justin didn't even hesitate. He's like, "There's no internet."
No, but when you're like when you try to fix a robot, and you're trying to order parts from McMaster and do all these sorts of things, like when you don't have it's amazing when you don't have your phone, like how hard things can get.
Yeah, I imagine so. So it's internet number one, but is there anything like, you know, one pit plays a certain kind of music just way louder and you're just like, I've heard this song 6 times today, like can we please have you guys play something else or turn it down? Like is there any sort of like little quirky things like that go on?
So I guess one silly one, is a Copperhead was right next to us, and they had this big like couch and like living room set up. And when you're working really hard and you look over and they're chilling on a couch, Oh, ooh.
Oh wow! I bet that's something right there. Well, I appreciate the pit insight. I love just no hesitation. Internet. There's no internet. Like it's such a first world problem. But yeah, I could completely understand. You guys are trying to
At
order
the very
parts.
first, it's a first world thing. You're just fighting robots. Like,
Yeah, it
it's
absolutely.
first world it gets.
So you guys, they announced the fight card finally for this next episode, episode 14 of BattleBots, and you guys are on it. You're in a rumble against Uppercut and Railgun Max. I mean, these are two bots that have done quite well for themselves this season. Young teams also, and so you guys are, for the fans listening at home that maybe aren't quite up to speed, you guys are 2-1, 1-2 at this point in the season, going into this.
We're 2-1.
2-1. So clearly, a win makes it look really good to the judges and the decision committee to put you into that top 16. Even a loss, because you guys have had some pretty tough scheduling, but I think being put against two opponents, if you get a win here, it might only count as one, but it's kind of looked at as you beat two bots in the same bout. So how do you guys feel, looking back? Obviously the season is over and done with filming wise, but everybody sort of has their own reaction to watching it all play out on TV. Justin, we'll start with you. How do you feel about the season for Bloodsport so far going into this last fight for you guys of the regular season?
Yeah, so I mean, to be perfectly honest, this season wasn't supposed to go it wasn't supposed to be this good. Like, this is our first heavyweight, really the first time we really built a combat robot, really. So we really went into it just like expecting one match. Hopefully, we'll get the blade spinning. That sort of idea where hopefully something good happens. At least one good thing happens, and we can learn from it, and we can improve on it, and come back to the next season. That sort of idea. Then sure enough, our first match was lucky, and we did the weapon stopped like halfway through the match, but it actually lasted 3 minutes. Like, it kept going. The drive went the whole way. Like, couldn't have gone much better as a first match. Black Dragon, of course, ended up being top six robot, like a top
really,
six
really
robot.
good robot. Yeah.
Really, really good. Yeah. So I mean, we can't be too disappointed can't be disappointed about that. There was a few stupid things in that match, which we would have hoped would have gone the other way. But you learn from that. And then Breaker Box, which it's the legend from Team Nightmare. Like, that's a huge like fantasy to fight one of those legends. And sure enough, we ripped that wedge off and did really. So honestly, at this point in the season, we were like really blown away by how far we've gone, and now we basically have a shot for the top 16, and we really don't want to, lose it now. now that we've tasted it, we really want to get into it.
You've tasted victory and success, and now you want it to go just another step further. Just punch your ticket to that 16. Griffin, how about for you? What's it been like watching this play?
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy that we've gone this successfully. And actually, the way that this episode's working, episode 14, is it's you win, you're in. So what they've done is they've decided some 8 of the top 16, and then this episode is 8 fights, and whoever wins those is in, no questions. Yeah. So we were like, they started listing them. We were looking at like our notes, and we're like, guys, there's no chance we're top 16 when they go to tell us who the top 16 is, and then they tell us we're throwing away the rule book, and we're gonna do this extra round, and we hear like we're in this extra round, and we were going crazy. Like, how did we go from we want to spin up once and to thinking if we win this we're going to fight someone insane like a Bite Force, the teams that have been doing it for years. So the fact that we're doing this well is really unexpected, and if we're being honest, probably a little undeserved. Just for how new we are, how good we accidentally made a robot is probably a little undeserved. And yeah, we're just thrilled to have our shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys have, like you said, really impressed. You've done really well. And, last question really for both of you guys, going into this Rumble where it's, every bot for himself, but obviously you have to worry about one more opponent that you normally would in this triple threat. But out of Railgun Max and, of course, Uppercut, like I said, very good teams, very young teams. Justin, you first. Who's impressed you the most out of those two?
To be honest, I've only really seen Railgun Max. Like I when I was there, I really didn't see much of Uppercut. To be honest, when I was going into that match, I really didn't have an idea of how good Uppercut was or how impressive Railgun Max was. I knew both of them at the same time were going to be really challenging because it would be very easy for them to team up on us. So we basically went into that match with the idea to basically drive around, avoid that initial teaming up hit, and just go one at try to disable one, then go after the others. That sort of idea.
Gotcha. And Griffin, how about for you? Which one of these bots has impressed you the most?
Yeah. So several of the guys from Uppercut have been on or related to Sawblaze for several years.
Yeah.
So I'd seen them last year, and so there's a little bit of nervousness. Like Sawblaze is a seriously good team, and we're all just 3-on-3 first-year teams. So history plays a big part in knowing they have that pedigree is a little intimidating. But yeah, Railgun Max and Uppercut have both had impressive records. They're both 3-1 going into this. And Uppercut had a really good fight against Scorpios recently. And Railgun's last fight was free shipping, if I remember correctly. I mean, they're both really good. When I started walking around the pits and looking, trying to find them both, when they announced the fights, and I started seeing the captains of both of them started to talk, and I was getting real worried. But Alex, the head of Uppercut, he's like, no, I promise we're not. They asked for an alliance, but I promise we're not doing one. And I wasn't sure if I could trust him on that because he would tell me that no matter what. But that's something you have to be worried about because in BattleBots, it's just last man standing. That you can do whatever you want. Yep. I think a couple years ago, Kraken I think it was last year. Kraken, I think in the Last Chance Rumble, maybe had an agreement with every single other team they were a partner on.
Yeah.
Just the idea that they're going to backstab all of the opponents, just as. There's really no rules. Anything's fair game, and everyone kind of understands that. So no one's going to hold a grudge. But we have to be wary if two teams take us from at the same time. That's not going to go well.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. But still, there can only be one winner. So alliances or not, you got 3 minutes in that box, and what you do with it is can make or break your season. Obviously, win and you're in. Episode 14. Have you guys already started the modifications and changes to Bloodsport for 2020?
Oh yeah. We've been since day one of when we got back. We've been making a version 2. We're really excited for it. Lots of new things about it.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate your time. It's been a lot of fun to talk to you and get some insight from two guys that have been around the block once or twice with BattleBots, but a good young team, and I'm excited to see Bloodsport in this Triple Threat Rumble this Friday, tomorrow, on the Discovery Channel. So, gentlemen, Mr. Tabor and Mr. Marple, thank you so very much for joining me. You guys have a great rest of your night.
Well, thank you. You too.
And one more big thank you to Mr. Griffin Tabor and, of course, Justin Marple of Bloodsport. And they're going to be in action tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you listen to this episode of the F.A.N Show, a Robotics Division Special. So make sure that you tune in, check it out, and if you missed any of this episode or previous specials that we've done, go and subscribe, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and of course iHeartRadio, and give us a follow on Twitter. The flagship account is at F.A.N Show Official, but the Robotics Division specific one is at F.A.N Show _robotic. And of course we are on Facebook. There's only one page for that, and that is facebook.com Fan Show Official, and just the one Instagram, and that is the Fan Show as well. There is a YouTube channel, and you can find links to that on our Twitter accounts as well as on the Facebook page there also. So there's always a way to find Fan Show content. Where there's a will, there is a way, and it's not official unless it's Fan Show Official. We are officially out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much again for listening. Please tell all your friends, give it a like, a listen, a love, and a share, and we will be back next week after we find out who has taken up 8 of the 16 spots for the tournament of 16 as we get ever so close to the championship tournament of the 2019 season of BattleBots. So, thank you again, and good night.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's spot? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.